Okay, we're going to jump right into this particular, I guess, project now that I am jumping into myself. I have acquired a Revox B77 Mark II. This particular version is the high-speed version, half-track head, meaning two-track only, meaning it only records in one direction. So basically, this is like a master recorder and setup. In that, this is ideal for audio recording or like dedicated recording. The majority of reel-to-reel machines that you're likely to encounter have what they call a quarter track head, meaning that there are actually four tracks per playback on the playback head, the record head, and the delete and bias head. And that's fine. You get the most out of that because it's like a cassette tape where you can turn the reels around and then record two tracks in the other direction. This uses the most width per two channels. The only thing you could do beyond this is go full mono, where you're literally using the whole width of the tape for a mono recording, which that I don't want to do that. It's probably cool, and I'm sure there's some great things you can accomplish with that, but I would prefer not to record in mono. So this is the best that I can come up with in my budget range, a dedicated machine like this. But it's like everything. It's seen some time in the field. It's seen some use. So what is this stuff in my hand? Well, you might recognize it. It's a pinch roller. This piece sits over top the pinch roller, and this is what I really wanted to talk about. This, I don't know how well that's going to show up for you. I don't have a. I guess I could put a macro lens on this thing if I really wanted to, but it seems unnecessary. Just take my word for it. I just drilled this screw out, and it was a very delicate procedure because if I had made a mistake, I'd have cost myself quite a bit of money to potentially. And so thankfully it worked. I was able to do it very slowly, very carefully, to get this off because this screw, you know, maybe before we go anywhere and talk about anything else, and I'll just talk about this. Anybody who's ever done any kind of service or any kind of attempted to mess around with any type of machine that electronics from this, even modern stuff. Actually, here's a perfect example. You own a MacBook. You ever try to take the bottom cover off or something? Those screws, they might as well be made out of lead. They are completely the worst things ever. They just turn to mush. Put a little bit of force, and they're just like, well, you're bound to run into these here and there. Throughout many eras, I think this is just my theory is that this was on purpose. They put these little roadblocks in your way, the unsuspecting, unwary, and even I should know this, and I still make this mistake, and I made it here, and it forced me to have to end up drilling the screw out, which means now I have to either I need to somehow match this thing. I have to come up with another screw that fits, that has the same thread, same diameter, pitch, that will hold that pinch roller back. It goes right here, okay? The reason I even had to do this at all is because to take the front plastic off, you have to get the pinch roller out of the way. It's the only thing after you take the screws off that holds the plastic. It impedes or prevents you from removing the plastic. Yeah, anyway, so this little bugger, it looked like it was made of brass, but clearly, if you can see that at all with any detail, you can see it's a silver color because it's only a plated, material, and it's very soft. I initially put very little force on this thing. Now it might have. I didn't look closely. Maybe if I'd looked closely, I would have noticed that somebody else had attempted or had sort of munched this screw. It might have, or munched in the sense that it's been, you know, a screw that has clearly been, turned by somebody and it's kind of half wrecked but still usable. This may have been in that condition. It may not have been, but I know this much. I didn't do much. I didn't go in there ham-fistedly, just, these some of these screws, they're in so snugly, and they're made of a softer type of, alloy in such a way that they just shred, and then you're in trouble. So be aware. Be aware of these things. Look closely, especially if you see a brass colored screw, that should be your first indication. I need to proceed with caution. Anytime you see that, just do it, even if it's not necessary. Just do it. You can save yourself a lot of headache. It may have turned out that was the only way I was ever getting this out, regardless, because it was in quite snugly. Um, Nonetheless, with a lot of patience, and I covered everything so that I protected those heads, especially those are, they're in very good shape. Thankfully, that's one of the things I'm very thankful for. For a machine of this age, the heads are in good condition. Most of the components are in good condition. The tape path is what we're really looking for, because there's wear. I mean, it's inevitable. Audio tape is sort of akin to, whatever fine grit. I don't know what the equivalency is, but it's like sandpaper, but very not rough. It shouldn't be super rough, but either way, wear occurs all throughout all these shafts and places where the tape makes contact, and especially the heads, surfaces. This is in really good shape. And that's a huge start. So you can see a little better here. Obviously, there's some marks and scratches on the faceplate. I mean, this has been used. How old is this thing? 40-ish years? Not exactly sure of its date of manufacture. It's a Mark II, so that gives us some ballpark. But looking at this, what is this stuff that has clearly been dripped? Is it something that somebody sprayed in here at some point? Did this belt erode? That's what I'm wondering, if it wasn't, because it all seems to be centered around this belt, and this one's in good shape, so somebody's changed it. It's possible this was the original belt somehow, that just, I don't know, maybe it was left stored on its back and this just happened, and I don't know how it dripped down. That would be from being upright. Anyway, something happened. I'm not sure what this substance is, but I'm going to clean that up. It doesn't seem to be, I don't deem it as being there's nothing there. It's not like it's the guts of a capacitor. There's nothing there that is oozed out. It's possibly the old belt or something somebody sprayed in here that, I don't know. Can't really identify that, but so we'll clean that up. The mechanicals on these, because they're, other than this counter belt, it's like, as far as I know, it's a direct drive. That's the only belt in this system, and that's one of the many nice things about this machine. 15 inch per second. That's the other thing. So this approach is, for somebody at home, this approach is the kind of quality level that you can start to expect from a pro level machine, right? The type of thing that you would, like a Studer. It's more expensive, brethren. Yeah, brother. Older, more expensive, or not older, but just fancier, high end. The same company, right? So, or at least divisions of the same. So Revox. I don't know the whole history of their company, but from what I understand, the Revox was sort of their prosumer, if you will, line, and it's a really good machine. It's a great machine, actually, especially for me, who doesn't have $5,000 or more to spend on an actual top of the line, you know, um, reel to reel, open tape, open reel recorder, or whatever, however you want to refer to it. Yeah, so this is just the beginning of it. I just wanted to kind of show you that, especially to show you about this that issue with the screw that just really almost ruined my day. I mean, it was close. So you have to be super careful. What I did, just to explain, I have a few different of those what they're called step down bits. I don't know if I have one. I don't have one handy, but you've seen them in use. They're not like regular drill bits. They get they start narrow and they get very fat, and they go through, and each jump is like a boop boop boop, and it opens up. They're very effective at putting holes in metal, basically. But I started with a bigger size that was roughly the size of the screw head, but not maybe a little smaller, in the ballpark. And I slowly, as I removed more and more material, I went to a smaller drill bit, and very slowly, very carefully got through that, because what I didn't want to do was, and I might have a little bit, but not enough to be of significance. I didn't want to cut into this, or this piece is what holds the pinch roller down here, right? So the whole thing sits like this. Essentially, yeah, this is the pinch roller, and that's a top little plate that holds it in position, and then you put the screw in, and that's what I had to do to even just get to this point where I could look in the front side. What actually really, really, really started it was that I made another goof up. There are two of these. There's one here, or here. Uh, this one's rolled. These are just, I guess, tape path guide things. It's like a little sandwich. I'll show you. So this is the center bit, and this is the top, and this brass section it's like a two-piece thing that holds it together. So it's kind of like a sandwich like that. And this middle bit, I believe, because that one does it, it's supposed to roll. So it rolls with the tape as the tape goes past, right? And it's just a tape guide, essentially. But this one, it was stuck. It wasn't rolling. And you could see a buildup of, I had to really clean this tape path. I think somebody had run some tape through it that was suffering from what they call sticky shed, because there was goop. It wasn't like, it wasn't just oxide, it was goop. It had a goopiness to it. It was all over, and it was it was just stuck to the one spot on this. There was a buildup of goop, and that's what kind of made me think, oh, that's weird. Why is it not spread out across it? And it wasn't. So it was sort of stuck. So it needs to be relubricated, put back together. But when I pulled that out, there's a backing piece. I kind of knew as I was doing it there had to. I assumed that it was a possibility anyway. And yeah, and lo and behold, I heard something fall, and it's the piece that holds that thing in place from the underside. So I need to get at it. In order to do that, I need to, because this is a solid casting, and I don't see a way to come at it from the back of the unit. So I wanted that plastic faceplate off. Then the pinch roller was in the way. Then the screw got munched. Then I had to figure out how to get the screw out. So I opted to ultimately just drill it out very carefully, and you can see that it worked out pretty well. It could have gone the other way, and it could have worked out very badly. So you must be extremely careful. And if you're not confident with that, if you've never done it before, I suggest you don't do it. Just maybe consider reaching out to somebody, who you think is a little more comfortable doing that kind of thing. I've done stuff like this for a long time, so sometimes I'm foolish. A lot of times I get in over my head, but I have some experience to kind of rely on in terms of how to do those things without making things worse. Anyway, that just comes from doing it and succeeding and failing, but also learning. People can tell you how things. You read books. You just go to YouTube and how do you do it? How do I drill a screw head, or how do I drill a screw out that is stuck? Well, there's probably 10,000 videos on that topic if you want, but that's whatever it is. So But yeah, I still have to actually locate the piece that would sit. So this is the bottom. So there's one here, and underneath this little thing is another pillar like one of these brass standoffs. It's kind of like the same thing you see. Exactly the same idea as what is used in like a computer motherboard, the old desktop where you'd have standoffs holding the circuit board off the you know the actual tower case, the case. So there's another piece that fell when I pulled this out. It's in here somewhere. I've got to dig around. I haven't gotten that far, but I know it's in here because I heard it fall. And when I get that, then I'm gonna have to figure out. So I probably have to. It's gonna actually be a pain. I'm probably gonna have to remove this whole head assembly to put this thing back on. It's just unfortunately the way that goes. It has to be. Not no, not to worry. It's just part of the process. But um, what I want to do, what I'm going to do with this, so long-term plans. This was sort of unforeseen stuff, little things. There's not a lot of mechanical stuff that I'm aware of that needs doing. The main thing is that this has never been recapped, so that's kind of job number one. Thankfully, the way it's designed is such that, well, here, let me show you. As I was saying, one really nice thing about the design of this machine is that these are all cards, each individual one, like a add-in card for, say, a PCI card or something in a desktop computer. Again, um, I don't know. I guess yeah, this was just the design. You don't see this in many um, things other than computers. So it's very interesting that this is the design they went with. But anyway, all the capacitors are original. And how do I know that? Because I recognize them and I've seen these old, and I know the era that they're from. So I know that they are era correct. So I see one that even appears to have, you can't see it, it's over here, but just take my word for it. It appears to have spilled a little of its guts out. So this thing needs a recapping. That's normal. It's a pain, but it's a lot less of a pain when you have cards that pop out or like this. Can be done one by one and makes life a lot easier. That way, it's a job, and I'm not going to sit and have you watch me do every little part of it. I'll just do it, and when that's done, assuming there's nothing else electronically wrong. I mean, there are other components that can go bad. I see a lot of tantalum caps. They're notorious for having problems, so let's hope that we don't run into that too much of that. Um, yeah, that's a big step. Recap it, see where it's at. The last real major thing to do is get some tape on this thing and calibrate it, and that's a whole other procedure, and that's one that I haven't had a ton of experience with, but I have done a little bit of that type of thing on different machines. So the idea remains the same. The you know specifics from machine to machine might vary somewhat, but so that's kind of the big deal. That's where you get this thing really working right, because if you just throw tape on this and expect it to sound good and then it doesn't sound good, then you say, well, why doesn't it sound good? This is crap and I don't like working with tape. Well, that is because you can't just do that. Especially something this old, it needs to be recapped, it needs to be recalibrated, it needs to be recalibrated or biased to the tape, set up for the tape you're going to use it with as well. And that doesn't mean every, I guess, you don't have to for every type you change it to, but if you change from like a really drastic different type of tape, like a very low, like what they would call a standard tape, which is like a Scotch 115 or something, is the benchmark, like one of the very earliest types of tape, very comparatively to the really high end stuff that by the late 70s and 80s, that was much different composition, lower noise, higher signal that you could sort of impress upon the magnetics of the tape, and much higher fidelity. Ultimately the quality was vastly different. Well, you can't, so there are things about that, so you have to, like, for what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to use the best tape I can get quality wise, and I'm going to set this up for that ideally. And option B is, if I feel that I can't quite accomplish that, if I'm in over my head that at that point, there are people I know who can do that I will send this to and have them maybe do the final touches. So I can do the capping, it's just replacing electrolytic caps. That's just being careful and taking your time, and you just one by one, card by card, will go through and do that job. That isn't overly complicated unless you have problems with traces lifting on the bottom of a circuit board or a PCB. Those kinds of things can crop up. I don't suspect I'm going to run into that with this. This looks to be a little higher quality than that, so I don't think that's going to be an issue, but I don't know. I'll know when I apply heat. Anyway, so those are the things. Ideally, at the end of all this, I don't want to do this for the sake of it. I want to do this so I can use this. That's the goal here. That's the end game. It's not just for the sake of making a video, or the sake of saying, oh, I recapped it. It's so I can use it. Now, I could pay somebody to do that, I guess. If I didn't have any experience in any of that kind of thing, I wouldn't do it myself, obviously, and I would pay somebody, and it would probably cost me a fair amount of money to do it, because it is a lot of work, and the time that it takes to go through a machine like this and do all that recapping, and it's tedious, but I'm comfortable doing that anyway. I won't say I'm confident, but I am confident. I'm comfortable. That part I can handle. Calibration, we'll see. I don't have a test tone, like one of those tapes that you need to set up your levels. I should probably get my hands on one of those, or a pair of them, however they come. And yeah, really the end game here is that this is going to be the centerpiece for what I'm working on in terms of recording. A machine like this, set up properly, working to its optimum capabilities, can sound pretty fantastic. Doesn't quite have, it can't quite rival digital's, sort of high end and the signal to noise ratio that digital systems can achieve. But in other ways, it's no slouch. And when you hear a good tape recording, you tend to be like, there's something about it. There's a depth. That's the only way I can describe it. There's a depth and like an airiness and a breathing. Like there's a it's something. It's real. Everyone says it. It sounds like you know hoodoo, voodoo, bogus kind of BS, but they're just like good vinyl. Good recordings, and almost all vinyl first was put to tape and then on. I mean, sometimes it was directly cut, but you know that's not the standard kind of way generally that people operate. So first to tape, and then so you have a master tape, then cut on a lathe to vinyl, and so forth. Anyway, that's kind of off topic for today. So hopefully we get to that point. That would be fantastic. That'll be way down the road. We get to that point. I'm not going to rush through this. This is going to be take my time, do everything really carefully. There's no rush to get this thing working. It's not. It's just I'd like to start using it right away, but I don't want to rush through this. So it's better to be patient and go step by step. So yeah. So I think that's it for now. That kind of covers where this is at, where I'm at. Hopefully, come back, check back once in a while, see if there's a update, another video on this as I go along. I'll add some more content. And yeah, thanks for watching, and bye for now.